Alright guys, so for this lesson 3 in Unit 6, we're still talking about food, and we're talking about how we keep food fresh using technology to do so. So the first part is preservatives and additives, in which I know preservatives, they get a really bad name, and additives, which they can be bad. But that is how we get food to last so long in the grocery store and buy it. If you want to avoid these things, you need to buy local from farmers markets, but most of the items in big chain grocery stores are going to have these in them just because that's how they're going to save money with limiting food waste. So most egg products are perishable, which means they will decay or spoil over time. So even those products making a short journey from the farm to the local market, they lose nutrients as soon as they're harvested. So the clock starts ticking. So in the U.S., we're used to having fresh vegetables all year round. For residents of states with mild climates and strong industries like California, Texas, and Arizona, we're pretty accessible to produce. But if you were in Maine or Montana, that's going to be harder to come by because they don't grow in the winter months. So you can or pickle to extend the life of food, but it can change the food's taste or texture. Like, do you know that a pickle is a cucumber? A lot of people don't know that. So it completely changes the texture and the taste of that vegetable. So they're not as helpful if someone in the colder region wants a nice salad in February. So this is where preservatives, which are substances to preserve foods, come into play. So they help extend shelf life, which is the period of food that's edible. With little changes to taste or texture, preservatives work by killing the microorganisms or the bacteria that causes food to decay. Along with that, we can add additives, which are additional ingredients used to alter food. In some cases, they may make the food more nutritious. Calcium is added to many kinds of orange juice. Preservatives and additives are often negatively associated with processed foods, which are those that have been substantially altered, including with these substances. Sugar and salt are popular additives because they greatly enhance taste. Back before they have refrigeration, that's how they would store all their meat, was in salt, because salt is a natural preservative. So the difference between processed and unprocessed foods is the difference between eating a baked potato and a bag of chips. That bag of chips was processed from that potato. Potato that you bake probably had a bath between the farm and your house, but because they have a naturally long shelf life and don't bruise easily, there's little processing involved. So it's got to have most of the nutrients that it had when you pulled it from the ground. Potato chips don't. So even the potatoes that make the trip to the factory might have come from the same farm the baked potato you had, but they're much less healthy. Potatoes shaved thin and fried, so the entire surface of the chip will absorb some of the fats used in frying. So that's a really large amount of fat. Then preservatives are added to keep the chips from going stale or getting soggy. So they're tasty because of all the salt that's added, and then any other additional flavoring. Then they're packaged and distributed. So it makes it a lot more complex, which is why they're more expensive and more unhealthy for you than just a baked potato. So processed foods typically are also going to have fewer vitamins and minerals than we need. So as obesity rates are rising, agencies and medical professionals are increasingly concerned about what people are eating. So that's one of the jobs of the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture, which we've mentioned before, is to inform the public about a healthy diet. So here's the new food pyramid. It works to help people who are knowledgeable about the food they should eat and maintaining a healthy, balanced diet. So if you're interested in food or health, you could be a nutritionist or a dietitian. You can go to college and study these things. They educate people about healthy choices and help them manage their diets. Food science, you can go and study food science. That's the study of all things related to food, and it's really close to agriscience. Agrisciences are less concerned with keeping crackers crisp in the box. Both disciplines are concerned about getting a peach to market and packaging that preserves its freshness. So all this food that's coming from all over the world to get to places that it's not natural, like a pineapple, they have to be transported. So most local foods, most vegetables and fruits are going to be shipped by truck, semi-trucks. But, those like Hawaii has pineapples and papayas, they're flown. So we may have to use airplanes. So that's another reason that those foods may be more expensive than others. So we have excellent transportation in America, and available and affordable, and that's how come we can have such broad choices of food throughout the year. Other countries don't have this access. So standards for food require sanitation, also known as disinfecting, which means keeping microbes and harmful bacteria to safe levels. It's different from sterilization. So sanitation is cleaning it, disinfecting. Sterilization is eliminating all germs. So given that ag product workers work with plants or animals, sterile conditions are impossible to maintain, but they are required to clean regularly and to kill those microbes and bacteria. So from the time that produce is picked up to the time it's consumed, it releases ethylene, which is a gas. It's a hormone associated with flowering and ripening. So ethylene is both a positive and a negative. It causes many fruits that release it to rot, or in other words, over-ripen. So that's why if you have like a bad apple that's rotting and it's still in the bag with all your other apples, you need to get it out because it's going to release more ethylene, and that ethylene gets trapped in that plastic, and it's going to cause all those apples to rot a lot faster. So some fruits release more ethylene than others. In part, effectively moving ag products is monitoring those levels. So, not keeping them with those that don't have a lot of ethylene. So some ag products like flowers will be treated with anti-ethylene chemicals to preserve their blooms, because if they are shipped with that produce or by the produce, they're going to be associated with that ethylene, and it's going to cause them to bloom faster and die faster. Temperatures another consideration when moving produce. It's easy to food to pick up bacteria that can make people sick, so you need to keep it at the right temperature. So although it sounds real simple to transport food, there's a lot that goes into it to get it to the grocery store in optimum condition. And there are regulations, of course, on transporting food by the USDA and the FDA, which is the Food and Drug Administration. So they serve distinct but related purposes. The USDA monitors all aspects of ag production, and the FDA deals with food and drug safety. So they were the first to protect consumers when they passed the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906. It was inspired by widespread unsanitary, it used to be gross, unsanitary conditions in food industry. Meat packing industry was really bad. Since then, the FDA has created regulations to minimize that risk. So here's some FDA regulations for safely transporting food in trucks. So temperatures, they must be in appropriate range for the type of food. They got to maintain their cooling system, sanitation, training, because there's so much at stake on the food. It's responsible to have specialized training about transporting those food. And they have to keep accurate records. So in addition, there's wireless sensor technology. It's increasingly being used to provide valuable feedback to these moving ag products. So that's a sensor that's going to be anywhere in the truck with the food, and it can send data anywhere, and a truck driver might receive a call from headquarters letting them know that their cooling system is out, because that truck driver is not going to know while they're in the driver's seat. So technology and all these regulations, they're all in place to keep you safe and keep your food safe.